Hey guys, so this video I'm gonna be doing a movie review of The Blackening. I originally saw this trailer when I was, what did I go to see? I don't know, it was one of the horror movies I saw, and I saw this, actually I think it was before the Transformer movie, but I was like, immediately after I saw it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna see this. It's my kind of movie. It came off very much as kind of a horror parody, but not in the, we absolutely despise horror movies. It's more in the poking fun at horror tropes, but also showing their love of the horror genre. So I automatically was interested in it. So synopsis of the movie: a group of black friends go to the cabin in the woods to celebrate Juneteenth and, reminisce about old times. And they end up getting trapped by a killer who makes them play a game to escape. A lot of the movie, a lot of the plot just revolves around playing with a lot of horror tropes. And so we get the characters who end up going into the woods or going, I don't know where exactly. I'm assuming the south. I'm not sure if it's Texas, but they end up going, I'm assuming the south because there's like these creepy looking hillbillies, because they stop at a gas station, of course. And so, yeah, they go into a cabin in the woods, which, is on par, of course, with the horror movie. And they are celebrating all this, and the doors end up locking. They can't open any of the doors. Oh wait, no. The power goes out, and then they try to find the fuse box, and they keep trying to open doors, but they won't open until they get to the end of the hall, where it says door with the sign game room on it, and so they go down there, because nothing else will open. They find this board game that, once they open it, there's this like really offensive, I don't know what you call it. In the middle there's like this face, that's really offensive, like portrayal of a black person, like blackface, and ends up starting to talk and telling them that, you're gonna have to play this game, if you want to save Morgan, because before they came, there's two other friends that had gotten there before them, and they end up going down to the basement and finding the board game, and one of them, the guy, ends up dying, but the girl was kidnapped, and so the killer's using her as a way to try to get them to play the game, to save her. And so they're forced to play the game, and so they start drawing cards, and and they're all just questions about like black characters in media, testing them to see how much they know about black characters in media. And so they eventually they have 10 questions they have to answer, and so they answer them all correctly, and so I think they're pretty much lied, and so they're getting ready to kill Morgan. So they grab her by the hair, and it's like, I don't know if they're trying to chop her head off, but they yank her hair back. Turns out that it's like a weave, and so she's able to, and she ends up escaping and going up the stairs, but the door's locked. And they can see the whole entire thing because there's a television that the killer is showing them the video, like camera footage of Morgan. She's going up the stairs, and so they go running to the basement door, and so they are like watching the entire thing on the television, and then they're like screaming, telling them exactly what's happening, and so they just telephone the entire thing to, like, Morgan in the through the door, and so they're just going back and forth screaming what's happening, and it's just kind of funny. And I don't know how they open the door, if they like break it down. Turns out one of the character has a gun, and so he like shoots the I'm not sure if he actually does shoot the lock off or if the killer lets him, opens it, but so we get the door opening and there's like this black hole and, we're trying, suspenseful trying to see what's going to happen, and then suddenly you get a arrow comes flying out and hits one of the characters, and apparently the killer has a crossbow, and so, eventually, they're able to they try shutting the door, and the killer is able to put an arm out, and so they end up getting a knife, and because he also put his foot in the door, they take a knife and stab him in the foot, and we're able to close the door. And so they try to decide what to do then. But there's this like a funny scene where the guy who got shot, they're trying to get the arrow out, and so the girl is like grabs an arrow and is like pulling it out, and she pulls it out and stabs herself in the arrow. Or stabs herself in the shoulder, and one of the characters is like, what the hell did you do? He's like, I was trying to help. And it was just really funny, just kind of things like that, the small moments that were humorous to me. And so they one of the characters, because they're trying to decide what to do, some of them want to go out, some of them want to stay in, and so one of the characters made the suggestion that they split up, but she almost throws up when she says it, and everybody's like so exasperated when she suggests it, because of course in horror movies, the worst thing you could do is split up. So of course that was enjoyable, and they do end up splitting up. The pair stays in the house. They end up going down to the basement and finding the killer's lair, and then they end up meeting the cop. There's a cop at the very beginning. One of the characters had gotten to the cabin, and he was like having trouble with the cop because the cop wasn't sure if he's supposed to be there, and because he said that it's usually families that rent out the cabin, but the characters think it's because he's racist. But the cop ends up showing up, and and they have all their weapons, and they immediately drop him once they see the cop. And then so the cop is like, no, I'm one of the good ones. Obviously referring to him being, white, but also a good cop. But it's kind of, once again, poking fun at those tropes. And so, they end up going to his patrol car, and they get into his car, but he goes out to investigate something, of course. And they find the mask, and the killer's mask in the car, and so the cops comes running back, telling him to let them in, but they show him the mask. He's like, alright, I know how that looks, and he's like, I found it in the woods, and, they keep trying to convince him to let him in, but, of course, he ends up telling the truth, because the killer ends up killing him. So they end up escaping back into the house. The others, try to escape. One of the characters, a woman, she ends up jumping into the dark lake, which honestly would creep me out. And she's like trying to swim across, but she has to come back because one of the killer is attacking her friend, and so she ends up swimming back. And the guy, he's like, apparently he used to be a gangster, or he is a gangster, but he was beating the shit out of the killer, which I do love that they did that, because so often in these particularly slasher movies, it irritates the fuck out of me how these characters, these killers are so fucking unstoppable, that and then they do it in every one of these movies. The killer's unstoppable, and so if you get the weapon away from them, apparently they are so strong that they can pretty much kill everyone. Or it's so irritating. Maybe that's why I don't like slasher movies as much, because it's just so ridiculous. They either do that, or they make characters so stupid that, it's not really, you don't really care for them because they're stupid. You want them to die. And so, anyways, he beats the shit out of this killer. And then the other girl comes along. Apparently she's on Ritalin. And so she's gotten kind of loopy. And she took in all the, like the crossbow arrowheads, and she puts them between her fingers and uses them as, like, I guess, brass knuckles. And so she's like, sitting there punching the killer, and eventually able to kill him. And they take the mask off, and of course it's the creepy white hillbilly from this gas station. Well, it's revealed that, he doesn't have the wound on his foot that the other killer did. So there's two. And so, yeah, they end up going back to the cabin. And we get the scene where the others are hiding. And they're hiding in, like, the air grate above, like, the stairs. And that is a creepy ass scene, because I'm waiting for the killer to, like, pop up right in front of the air grate. I was just waiting for it. And he doesn't do it, but they do it with one of the characters, one of the other characters. They left him for dead because he told them to leave him, for dead. And he was so fucking pissed that they left him. And so he eventually joins them in the air grate. And him and his like friend, they're sitting there having a huge argument because of their relationship, their friendship, pretty much having a friendship spat. And so the others end up coming in from the other three that had tried leaving, come back, and they end up killing the killer. And the girl, pretty much bashes the guy's face in. And so eventually they go back down to the cellar, and there is the cop, and I kind of missed, I didn't tell you about the part where there was this other character. He's like this really nerdy guy who, they had to, one of the cards said that they had to choose who was the blackest, and so that he had to die. And so they end up choosing that character because he said that he voted for Trump twice. And so he ends up going out and then getting shot. And so that someone to put their bodies down in the cellar. And so they go down there, and then the big reveal happens that the character that they thought was dead, that their friend was actually alive, and he was the actual bad guy, the killer. And so it's revealed that apparently he had drove drunk one day and killed a woman and went to jail for it. And he blames them because, he'd gone to a party, and I don't know what exactly he did. Oh, yeah. He didn't know how to play spades, and so they mocked him for it and said that his black card was revoked. And so that caused him to drink, what caused him to drive, what caused him to kill someone and go to jail. And it was completely ridiculous, but it's kind of hysterical, especially, when you see the character, saying all this. It was ridiculous. But yeah, they end up overpowering him, which I like, because the entire time I was like, fuck, it's just a crossbow, just fucking tackle the guy. And they do end up tackling him, and there's this like giant whale in the middle of the basement, of course, that he would throw the bodies down, and they end up knocking him down there. Of course, I'm not for sure completely if he's dead or not. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not. But yeah, so they end up defeating the villain. Apparently the two killers, because they were actually twins, and they were hired by that guy, you know, what's his name? Yeah, I forgot his name. Clinton? I think something like that. But yeah, he's the one who hired them to kill them. But so very rambling, but I've only seen it once. So, but I did enjoy their enjoyable moments. I actually saw it with I'm assuming mostly black audience. At least all the people on the side of me were black, and I felt like the only white person in the theater, but they loved it, and you know, I loved it, so it was an enjoyable experience. They were doing the typical, you know, telling them not to do stuff that people do in horror movies, and so, I mean, on the surface, it's a kind of a fun horror movie parody, but also, I think if you want to look deeper, you probably could say that this is also a commentary on what makes someone black, because there are a lot of different characters, and each of them kind of had, I guess you could say, had discrimination within the community because of some aspect. There's this interracial woman who points out that they only ever saw her white side. There's this another character who's darker skinned, and they kept saying that he's and his name, because his name sounded African, that he was from Africa, directly from Africa. But he reveals that he was born in America, and his father was African. So they made the assumption that because he's, you know, darker skinned and has a, you know, more African name, that he's from Africa. There's a character who is gay, but reveals that his family is homophobic, and so despite him being black, that doesn't mean that he won't be discriminated against because he's, you know, gay. And there was another character who was married to a white woman, and he was kind of teased. You know, one of the characters said he was working for the white man, and so it's kind of interesting because that's why I'm kind of assuming this is what it's trying to go for, that despite them being, I guess, identifying as black, they all kind of have these things in their lives that people have, I guess, that have made other black people question their blackness. I'll put it that way. Because the main character, of course, he mentions how he thought that, you know, he was one of them. Obviously meaning that he, you know, black and, you know, the other black people, until one of the characters said that your black card's revoked. And so yeah, I think that's kind of, if you want to look in deeper for something in this movie. I actually did enjoy all the characters, which is not always, that doesn't always happen in movies, especially horror movies. There's almost always one character I want to die, but in this movie, I was not wanting any of the characters to die. I was like, you know, trying to figure out which one I wanted to die if they had to, and I was just like, no, please don't kill him, no, please don't kill him. Because despite some of them, I mean, they're not flawless. One of the characters, he had cheated on his girlfriend, which is one of the other characters, in college, and so they'd broken up, but now, I guess years later, they've gotten back together. But, you know, usually when it comes to cheating, I despise it, and I automatically hate the character. But I guess in this movie, he does enough, shows enough that he cares for others, that I didn't hate him, hate his character, and want him to die, so that's a plus. I think one of my favorite characters in the movie is the villain. Because he's just so kind of ridiculous and funny, that I enjoy it. I do like the black guy, Officer White, who is, yes, a white guy. He's played by Dietrich Bader, and he's the kind of person that is very much like, you can't really hate him even if he's playing a cop, because he has this really like nice guy personality. I really like that they cast him as the cop, and so I did enjoy that. I like how, like I said before, they kind of play on a lot of the horror movie tropes, but they also subvert some of them. So one of the common horror movie tropes that they stuck to was a white hillbilly looking dude ends up being the killer. So they stuck to that trope, but then of course the trope where the black person dies first is kind of subverted, except for the villain, of course, but all the other black characters end up surviving. So and it's enjoyable at the end because they're trying to debate whether or not to call the cops. Eventually they decide that they're going to call the police, or the firemen, because the firemen won't shoot you, and then the end scene is them getting hosed. And so this was actually a really enjoyable movie for me, and I'll probably see it again. Once again, kind of a rambling review, but that's me. But I would suggest, if you've thought about watching this, to go watch it. If you love horror, you'll probably enjoy it. If you like humor, you'll probably enjoy it. If you like both, you'll probably love it. Really, all black cast except for Officer White and the killers. Also female, or diverse female-wise. It has a gay character, interracial character. So I would say very diverse. But one thing I thought I'd mention, apparently this someone sued, claiming that the movie, they took in the idea of the movie and the game from one of the movies and games that they had created, and I don't have it in front of me. I don't know the name of the game or the movie, but ultimately they end up losing. Just a fun fact. I thought this was actually based on a new SNL skit, because I know I think there's a short video of it, but I thought it was a Saturday Night Live skit, so maybe I'll eventually see it. But in the meantime, I enjoyed the movie. Go watch it. So if you did like this review, get a like, subscribe to get notification for all the videos I'll be doing. You guys have a nice night. Stay safe out there. I'll talk to you later.